So the 2002 Zinc Yellow Mustang GT project has come a very long way. I have recently installed this front clip that came off of an Azure Blue Mach 1, and this is actually originally off a Torch Red Mach 1, and I have the fender tag that was on the very front of it stapled to the body that says Mach 1 on it, and that plus the fact that it's a clear-coated engine bay, which was only on the Cobras and Mach 1s, as well as the Bullet Mustangs. But as far as finding a Torch Red engine bay, it was going to be either a Mach 1 or a Cobra, and I do have the tag that says Mach 1 on it. But anyway, I got that all on, and I got it secured and held in with some fasteners, some self-tapping screws, and everything where it needed to be. And then I put all the body panels on the car just to make sure that everything was going to line up before I got it welded. So that was the next thing I needed to do. And I did have a good friend. He's the one who has the black Mach 1 you've seen on the channel. He was really nice and offered to come over and weld where the car needed to be welded in all the different joints. And I was able to have him come do that, and I've been looking forward to that because that's what I needed to do to go ahead and continue working on the project before I can put the engine in it, before I can totally line up the body panels where they need to be. I just wanted him to come in and get those welds in there. So that was really nice of him to come over, and he did a great job with that. And then I just got some nice paint, and I painted the welds because if you don't, they're bare metal and they could rust. So I went ahead and did that in all the different spots where he had welded, and I just used black, and that's okay. It looks pretty good. And so that was great to be able to get that all taken care of so I can continue aligning all the panels and then getting the engine in the car and everything. So that's what I was waiting on the most at this point. So I was able to go ahead and unbag the harness that I left on the passenger side here, and I had it bagged up to keep it out of the weather and the rain. There was a lot of rain here recently, more than we usually see out here in the desert, so it was good to have that all bagged up and taken care of. And so I ran all those wires, and I probably should have just taken the wheel off at this point. I was being kind of stubborn and just wanted to do it without taking the wheel off, but I ran most of those wires and everything. So then I got all the hardware that I have in these bins. I've spent a long time organizing all this hardware. It took about 6 hours getting all of this hardware organized, and that's helped me in the long run because now anytime I need something, it's all bagged and separated, and I can just go ahead and grab what I need. And so I started aligning the body panels. There's 2 bolts on the bottom of the fender. There's 2 inside the door. You'll see I'll get to those here with the extension. And so there's those 2 bolts, and you can have a lot of adjustability with those by loosening and tightening them and raising the fender and lowering it and just getting it right where you need to. And of course, under the hood, there are some more bolts that you can tighten as you push the fender closer to the hood or farther away. But here's the door gap. I think it looks fantastic. It looks really good. Now, this is the side of the car that was the most straight. The other side was a lot worse to deal with from the accident, but this turned out really nicely. So I was able to then tighten down these fender bolts and move the fender just where I needed it to be and slowly close the hood without dropping the hood on top of the fender if the fender is too far into the engine bay. So working with that with no hood latch on, I was able just to lift the hood and lower it and adjust it and everything. So here you can see the gap is perfect on the driver's side. I'm very, very happy with that. It was a lot of work, but it came out nicely. And then onto the passenger side, my wife was really nice to bring out the sunshade and say, here, you need some shade. You know, she's good at taking care of me like that. I had water and stuff, but it's starting to get hot here, and that was a really good help because this obviously took longer than I would think, but I got that door gap set up just right because I wanted to catch on the very top of the fender there. So when you open the door and it's not catching, I'm very happy with that. And like I said, this side took the bigger hit, so the firewall was a little harder to adjust there without the door hanging, but I got it. So here I have a couple of cables. One's the cruise control cable. I'm just moving it out of the way, but what I'm going after here is the hood release cable. So it was broken on the inside of the car where you pull on it. The tabs were broken off. And so I did get another one at a wrecking yard. And so here I'm pulling the old one out. And you just have to be careful. There's a little grommet there. You can see that you push that through the firewall, and then you're able to pull the rest of it through. And of course, it wants to snag through the hole in the firewall, so you have to go push it through and be gentle with it. But I got the old one out, and then I have a new one here that I had gotten off another Mustang in the wrecking yard, and it was a good thing to grab. I'm glad I did that. My little boy came out and he put these cars in a row, helped me work on the cars, worked on his cars too, so that was fun. So here's a new hood latch that I got off of the white GT that was in the wrecking yard. It would be the same for a V6, that doesn't matter. And here is the new hood cable, the hood release cable. And so I'm going to install that in the car now, just run it through the inside of the car and then out through this hole in the firewall. And I did use my Cobra as a reference, and any of the Mustangs would be the same, but I did come in here and check to see where it came out. It did come out of the bigger box there, and then up around the strut tower, then down the side. So I was able to run it identically to that, have a good model of how to do it. Then I bolted it in, and I ran the cable over here and secured it with some zip ties where it needs to be, so it's anchored, so when you pull on it, it doesn't have slack or move out of the way. And this was the big moment of truth, because putting a complete front end on a Mustang and hoping that it's gonna fit is a big deal, like my silver GT. But here, as I closed the hood, I was very happy to see that the latch strikes exactly where the marks are on this hood, which is off of a yellow V6 Mustang. And that latch is perfect. It goes right where it needs to be. So I made sure everything was good, made sure that the cable was secure and ready to go, so I could actually do an actual test fit, and it latched perfectly. So now the big moment, or second moment of truth, is to go inside, make sure that it works. So boom, yep, pops right open. Everything worked out great. This was very relieving. You know, the car's all welded in place. Everything's lined up where it needs to be. And so that was a big relief, and I'm very excited about that. So now it's looking great. The gap is just great for what the car was, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. So now I'm ready to put the engine in the car. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for more of the updates on this car and for more Mustang content.